Hello, thank you for joining our workshop today on maintaining academic integrity, what every STEM student better know. My name is Angelica Yoki and I am a counselor in our MESA STEM Academic Success Center. Today I'm going to be going over some information to ensure that you are staying academically honest throughout your time here at Hancock and as you move on to the university. So an overview of what we're going to be covering is I'm going to be talking about the Hancock College Academic Dishonesty Policy. I'm going to be going over some examples of academic dishonesty, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to maintain academic integrity. So here is the Allen Hancock College Academic Honesty Policy, and it's our board policy 5500. So honesty and integrity are essential to the academic community. Faculty, students, and staff are expected to be truthful, trustworthy, and fair in all academic endeavors. Students who violate these principles by cheating, plagiarizing, or acting in other academically dishonest ways are subject to disciplinary action. So if an instructor determines after conference with the student that the student has been academically dishonest, the instructor at his, her, or their discretion may issue a failing grade on the assignment or take other measures that are reasonable and appropriate. The student may also be subject to further disciplinary action through the Associate Superintendent Vice President of Student Services. An appeal process is available to the student through the Office of the Associate Superintendent, Vice President of Student Services. So if you are in a position where you have been academic dishonest or been accused of being academic dishonest, and your instructor determines that you're getting a failing grade because of the situation, but you don't agree with it, you can go through an appeal process. And for more information, here is the link to the board policy, and all of the material for today's presentation for this recording will be available right underneath the recording video screen. All right, so let's talk about some examples of academic dishonesty. So there is various ways that a student could be found being academically dishonest. So one example is cheating. So what are some forms of cheating? So cheating can look like copying from another student's work. It could be their exams, their tests, quizzes, homework, any assignments. It can also look like allowing another student to copy from your own work, right? So providing another student with a copy of your homework for them to copy it, or providing another student with answers on a test. So you want to avoid providing student with your own work. You want to make sure that if you're ever in a position where another student like a peer is asking you for help, that it is actually help and you're not just providing them with answers, especially when it's a test or homework. Another form of cheating is using materials such as textbooks, notes, formula list during a test without the professor's permission. And keep in mind that sometimes, your instructors will allow you to have additional materials on an exam, and when it's allowed by the instructor, it's completely okay. It's only cheating when your instructor does not give you permission to utilize additional resources. So be mindful of that. Collaborating on an in-class or take-home test without the permission of an instructor. So again, if you have an exam that's take-home, or if you're working on an exam in class, you want to make sure that it's all of your own work and that you're not collaborating with your peers. Having someone else write or plan a paper for you is also a form of cheating. So anything that you do, whether it's an assignment, a project, a test, homework, you want to make sure it's all your own work and that you are not taking from your peer information to put onto as your own. You also want to be careful when your peers reach out to you for help. You want to make sure that you only provide support when it's appropriate, right? If it's a test and you're taking the test in class, you don't want to be providing your peers' answers. If it's a take-home test, if it's an online exam, you also don't want to be providing answers to your peers or taking answers from your peers. Okay, so another example of academic dishonesty is plagiarism. And this can look like presenting another person's words or work, images or ideas as if they were their own. So you want to make sure that if you are ever using someone else's ideas, that you're giving them the appropriate credit, that you're citing them in your work. It could also look like unauthorized use of another person's data when completing a computer exercise. So for those of you who might be taking programming classes, Excel classes, you want to make sure that what you are providing in your exams or in your assignments, that it's all of your own work. Unauthorized transfer and use of another person's computer files as your own. Okay, so you want to just be careful and make sure that any material, resources, tools that you're using, that they're appropriate and that they're allowed when you are using them. And if you are using them, you want to provide the appropriate credit to the creator, to whoever this material belongs to. Another form of academic dishonesty is fabrication, and this is the use of invented or misrepresented information. Fabrication most often occurs in the sciences when students create or alter experimental data. So you want to be truthful whenever you're doing labs or running tests or doing experiments or research. You want to make sure that the information that you're providing in regards to your results are truthful. Another form of fabrication is listing a source in your work cited that you did not actually use in your research. Next, collusion is another example of academic dishonesty, and this is when two or more students are working together on an individual assignment. Okay, so keep in mind, if it's not a work project or if it's not a dyad assignment, if it's an individual assignment, you have to complete the assignment on your own. You shouldn't be working with somebody else on it. And as a STEM student, we encourage you to seek out support. We encourage you to utilize the tutoring and the different resources that we have available to you. And we want you to utilize those sources. We also want to make sure that, whenever you're doing assignments or whenever you're doing projects or homework, that the material that you are presenting is, in fact, your own. Another form of academic dishonesty is duplicate submission, and this is when you submit the same work or project for two different courses, okay? So if you wrote a paper for your history class and you submitted it for your history class, you should not be using that same paper or essay for your English class or any other given class. Some more examples of academic dishonesty. So academic misconduct, which is obtaining a copy of a test before the test is administered, distributing either for money or for free a test before the test has been administered. So if you have access to an exam, and maybe you took the class previously, you should not be distributing that exam to your peers for their benefit. Encouraging others to obtain a copy of a test before the test is administered, changing grades in a grade book or on a computer or on an assignment, continuing to work on a test after the time is called, texting classmates answers or pictures during an exam. So whenever you're going into an exam, you want to make sure all of your technology is put away. So if you have your phone with you, turn it off, put it on silent, put it away in your bag, in your backpack, so that it's out of sight. Improper use of computer or calculator. So anytime that you are not allowed to use a computer or a calculator for an exam or an assignment, you want to make sure that you're not using it. You want to make sure that the work is your own and that you're not using additional tools if it's not allowed. Selling or giving away information stored on a computer or calculator, which will be submitted for a grade. Sharing test or assignments answers on a calculator or computer. Another example is improper use of online resources, and some of the ways that this can come about is using online material on an assignment or exams, online file sharing not approved by your instructor. So I know there's a lot of online tools where students are communicating, not just from our college, but maybe from other colleges. You want to make sure that whatever you're sharing on those platforms, that is this appropriate. Accepting or providing outside help on online assignments or tests, or obtaining test materials or questions before the test is administered. Okay, so moving on, how to maintain academic integrity. So just in general, as a student, you want to make sure that you are getting prepared for what's expected, and that you are aware of the demands of what is expected of being a student, right? So from the very beginning of the semester, you want to make sure that you're employing good study skills. This will allow you to stay on top of things. This will allow you to, make progress as you should every semester. This will allow you to have enough time to study and to prepare yourself for when you do have big exams or assignments. So make sure that you're reading your syllabi carefully and continuously throughout the semester, and prepare and plan ahead, okay? Your classes are rigorous, they are demanding. Sometimes there's going to be weeks or finals weeks where you have multiple exams on a given day, right? And you want to make sure that you are preparing for these things ahead of time, so that you're not in a position where you are tempted to use sources that you're not allowed to, where you're tempted to cheat because you weren't ready for the exam. Okay, so plan ahead as much as you can. Ask questions, seek clarification from your instructor regarding class policies whenever expectations about an assignment are unclear. Do not rely on your peers' information. Go straight to your instructor and make sure that you have all of your questions answered if there's something that you were unsure about. Attend office hours. This, of course, allows you to build rapport with your instructor, but it also allows you to ask questions whenever they do come up. Always assume that you are expected to complete an assignment or assignments independently, unless your instructor has indicated otherwise, okay? Clarify what is expected of you when you are working on a group project, okay? So as STEM students, there is going to be many opportunities for you to work as a group or as in teams. So, whenever those opportunities are there, make sure that you are clarifying what the expectations are. Don't wait until the night before to begin an assignment. Being rushed for time is not an excuse for cheating or plagiarism. Good time management also allows you to contact your instructor in case you have any questions. So don't procrastinate, don't wait till last minute. Avoid sharing assignments with others. If a classmate has questions, try to help them. That's totally okay. But allowing them to copy your assignment won't teach them anything, and you might be accused of academic dishonesty as well. So definitely avoid any situation like this. Keep track of sources and learn how to cite properly. If you paraphrase or summarize what someone else said, you will still have to attribute this information to them. Okay, so if you're writing a paper, make sure that you are citing all of your work and all of your sources that you're using. Don't be afraid to ask for an extension for an assignment. If you cannot get an assignment completed, you're better off taking a 0 for it rather than copying or submitting somebody else's work. Okay. Being charged with academic dishonesty will likely hurt your course grade much worse, and you might even, get an overall grade of an F, or even get dismissed from the college. In classroom exams, be cautious where you sit, cover your answers, and distance yourself from others to reduce the temptation to look. Also, to avoid the impression of cheating, don't look into your bag or use your cell phone during an exam. Remember that in many courses, the act of looking at your cell phone during an exam is already considered cheating, whether you actually use your phone for cheating or not. Okay, so like I mentioned, if you're going into an exam, put that phone away, turn it off. Don't be looking at it so you're not tempted to jump on the phone. Even if it's a text, or if you're doing something else on the phone, you're gonna most likely be accused of cheating. So don't be on your phones during an exam. Hancock College's academic integrity section. So on pages 13 through 15, you'll find more information about the consequences for academic dishonesty. So let's go through that now. So I'm going to scroll through, and like I mentioned, you'll have the link to this this page that I brought up. So what you're seeing here, okay, is the process of academic integrity sanctions. So we won't go through this in detail, but I just wanted to provide you with a copy of this. You all have access to this, and it lets you know what the disciplinary action is if you are found being academically dishonest. I'm going to jump back onto the PowerPoint. And like I mentioned, you'll have this available for your review. Why is preventing academic dishonesty important? So you can have big potential consequences. This can mean you get suspended or even expelled. You can earn F on an assignment, an exam. You can earn an F and fail the course. You won't master the material. Keep in mind that you want to make sure, especially in your STEM courses, that you're fully understanding the material, that you're fully understanding the course concepts. STEM requires that you build a strong foundation for your future courses, right? So if you're taking Calculus 1 and you are barely getting by, you're cheating, you're not being academically honest, you're using other people's work, you're using sources that you're not supposed to be using for exams, yeah, you might get through the class with a passing grade, but what's going to happen is you're going to struggle in your next class. Okay, you're going to struggle in that Calc 2 class, which will impact, future classes. So you want to make sure that you're really developing good understanding in your classes. So one way to do this is to stay academically honest and really study that material so that you've developed that expertise in those areas. And lastly, it's wrong. It's a bad practice, and it will probably end up showing up in your future career if you fly by college being academically dishonest. Resources to support you in preventing academic dishonesty. So Allie Hancock College, at our library, we provide an orientation, module 3, which you can view by clicking on this. And it goes over citing your work. And in this module, you will explore library databases and basic research tips. And here is a couple links to make sure that you are not plagiarizing, turnitin.com and Grammarly, and you have access to these for free. And that concludes this presentation. So if you have any questions around academic dishonesty, please feel free to reach out to myself. Like I mentioned, I'm a counselor in our Academic Success Center. Christine Reed is our other counselor in the Academic Success Center. We're happy to talk more about this with you. Thank you for joining today.